Ascendance of a Bookworm is now complete. But have you ever wondered about those point of views from other characters that we didn't get to see? Or maybe their origin story? And what about the many ways our Book Gremlin's adventure could have gone if just one thing had changed? Just think of the possibilities and consider the following scenarios. What did Ferdinand dream about when Rosamine put him to sleep? Rosamine, now in her grown up body, is still the same thoughtless gremlin inside. But things are different for Ferdinand now. In fact, he is struggling to recalibrate on all things pertaining to Rosamine. So when she puts him to sleep with a blessing, his dreams fluster and confuse him. A Ferdinand POV. It takes place soon after the copy and place scene, and just before they leave to fight Lanzenabe at the Royal Academy. Rosamine and her fiancé finally got married. During the after party, crashed by a horde of Dunkelfelgarians, Herscher beats Raufen in an impromptu contest and, as spoils, demands help with an experiment. I want to test whether brewing personal potions in a dyed state changes the effectiveness when used in a non-dyed state. After 2 humiliating failed engagements, Rosamine turned in every shred of her remaining social capital to move to the Sovereignty, where she became head librarian by default. It's not as great as her childhood dreams claimed. I was nothing but a stone, pretending to be human. No, anyone would have considered me too young and too insignificant to even acknowledge me as a make-believe human. Quinta, I didn't even deserve a name. I was just a number. But she was not from this world. To her, a little insignificant child would be far more precious than the stone he could be turned into, and she was determined to make me live, to become human. Ferdinand is the definition of a man who is married to his work. One day, a small girl sits in front of his apartment who claims to be his daughter. Reluctantly, he takes the girl called Mine in. Thus begins Ferdinand's new life as he tries to take care of the energetic bookworm. Fanfics. This is but a minuscule sampling of the hundreds and hundreds of fanfics written by Ascendance of a Bookworm fans for Ascendance of a Bookworm fans. Even with the series' conclusion, the number of fanfics keeps growing day by day. And is it any wonder? Kazuki-sensei wrapped up the story in a satisfying way, yet left the ending open enough for fans to dive into the politics, the growth of Alexandria, the fate of Ehrenfest transplants in their new duchy, through their imagination. This truly shows how well crafted the story is, and how beloved the characters are to fans who are just not ready to let go. Today, I am here to talk about this fascinating world of fanfiction. If you're new to fanfiction, also known as fanfics, and you're wondering where to find them or are curious about how to start one yourself, stay tuned. Your chattering Magpi, an avid fanfic writer and reader, has got you covered. Joining me today is Honorwolf, the self-proclaimed one and only Heartmut. Over on the Nest, my Discord server, he's one of the original members and a longtime supporter at the Zent-tier level. As part of this tier, supporters get the chance to co-host a video with me on a topic of their choice. And as a fanfic writer and reader myself, I was super excited to delve into Honorwolf's chosen topic of fanfics. But before delving into the chat and discussing specific stories and our particular experiences with fanfics, let's break down the basics of fanfiction. Fanfics are a huge subject to tackle with tons of terminology and endless genres, so let's start with a simple overview. This won't be an exhaustive guide, but it'll give you a good foundation to start from. Fanfiction, or fanfics for short, refers to unofficial stories that fans create using existing characters, settings, or plotlines from a series they love, or, in some cases, even series or works that they dislike. It's a way for fans to dive deeper into a work's world, explore character backstories, and revisit or reinterpret key events. Fanfiction lets us engage with our favorite series long after the story ends, offering an outlet of creativity and allowing fans to put their own spin on the world and characters. The official storyline, characters, and events, as established by the original work, is referred to as canon. So anything published officially, any fanbook, official spin-offs, even tweets from the creator or author, are considered canon. For fanfic writers, canon content is the starting point for them to explore or diverge from the original work in creative and unique ways. We can do so in several ways. For starters, fans can make alternative universes, also known as AUs. These are a type of fanfiction where the characters or the settings are placed in a universe different from the one in canon, such as a modern-day high school, a different historical era, or a dystopian future. In the Bookworm fandom, the universe is often referred to as a weave, so alternate universes set in the same world are often called alternate weaves or reweaves. This terminology is unique to Bookworm as it references the goddess of time, Dragoner, who spins the threads of destiny, and the goddess of weaving, Zent-tier, who shapes history by weaving those threads together into her tapestry. But there's a key difference between these two terms. Alternate weaves explore how the story might unfold if the world or characters diverged in specific ways. This could mean that the characters make different choices without them having knowledge of future or canon events. But it also includes changes beyond their control, such as being born in a different time or place. For instance, imagine a world where Ferdinand chose to keep Mine a commoner without any insight as to the disastrous consequences this would have for the country. Reweaves, on the other hand, usually involve characters who have hindsight, usually because they've somehow gone back in time or gained memories from canon or another version of the events. This creates a very different dynamic from the original story. For example, compare the fluffy shoemill in Wolf's Clothing to Angsty Afraid Not, both of which are works where the characters are often aware of mistakes or danger looming up ahead and can actively work to change the future. Rosamine goes back in time to when she was Mine. To make things go smoother this time, she wonders, what if she poses as a noble from the start? She laundered her identity as Rosamine anyway, right? Why not con her way into a noble? But as our book-loving Shumil poses as a Linkeberg wolf, the butterfly effect takes place in unexpected ways. Rosamine dies and is forced to go back in time, with each death rewinding time even more. She has hurt and been hurt by Ferdinand many times, and is now back at the start of her journey as a commoner child. With her heart and soul broken from repeated trauma, she decides that she's going to save Jürgen Schmidt by herself. Welcome to Afraid Not, or otherwise known as Ascendance of an Edgy Shonen Protagonist. All routes lead to suffering. These types of AUs are often categorized in the Bookworm fandom as retrogrades. Spin-offs. These are a type of story that branches off from the original work, usually focusing on secondary characters, side plots, or specific events that weren't explored in depth in the main storyline. They may also explore events further along in the series' story. Spin-offs may try and attempt to stay true to the canon world and timeline, or they may expand into new scenarios, but they generally retain a strong connection to the established universe. And then we have crossovers. A crossover brings together characters, settings, or elements from two or more different works, merging them into a unique blended storyline. This can create surprising and fun interactions between characters from different worlds and different series, offering endless potential for new dynamics and plot twists. Fanfic writers can stick to the characters from canon or create their own. Given the choice, some fanfic writers create their own unique OC to join the established cast. OC stands for Original Character, a character not present in the original work. OCs can interact with canon characters or even be central to a story's plot. In some cases, OCs can act as self-inserts, where the writer includes a version of themselves in the story. Because honestly, why not? Who wouldn't love to live out their dream in their favorite story? One topic some fanfic writers love to play around with are ships. Shipping involves supporting or writing about a romantic relationship between two or more characters, whether they're together in canon or are fan-created pairings. Common terms include slash, which refers to same-sex relationships, and het, which refers to heterosexual relationships. While many fandoms embrace multiple ships centered around canon protagonists, the Bookworm fandom is unique in the respect that it largely rallies around Fermine, the pairing of Ferdinand and Rosamine. This duo is considered the OTP, the one true pairing for most fans, meaning that they're the fandom's most beloved couple and most shipped couple. There are fanfics where other characters are shipped with Ferdinand or Rosamine, but they are very few and far in between. Personally, I'd love to see a bit more variety. Fanfic writers can also explore different tones and themes not present in the canon story. Though there are many flavors of fanfics, they can usually be divided into two camps. We have fluff and angst. Fluff are the stories that are the most lighthearted. They're often filled with warmth, positivity, and moments of romance, friendship, or family bonds. Moments of strife and tension are very limited, allowing for characters to relax and be at ease. These are perfect when you want a cozy read. On the other hand of the spectrum, however, angst stories dive into heavier, more emotional themes like heartbreak, betrayal, or intense character struggles. These stories can get deep, dark, and dramatic, often putting characters through tough challenges not seen in the source material. Now that we've covered the basics of fanfics and the essential terms you need to know, it's time to bring in a special guest to talk about what fanfiction means for Ascendance of a Bookworm fans. Joining me to share insights, favorite fanfics, and just fan chat with me is Honorwolf, a longtime fanfic reader, writer, and Ascendance of a Bookworm devotee.
I think I remember why I chose this topic, because I was begging people to make more fanfics that didn't include the spoilers from web novel. I'm like, please, everybody. But now that I can read everything, it's been a different ride.
Are you up to date on Hannelore?
No.
Okay. There's still some Hannelore spoilers out there.
Oh my god, you're doing it again?
There are fanfics that are now taking content from Hannelore and running with it. But for the most part, we've already covered all of the content that there is to cover, and all we have to do is just wait for the official release of Hannelore, which is happening. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
In the past, with at least the Bookworm fandom, I saw a lot of people just sticking with the main character, which is fine, completely fine. But we had so much of the main character, no other fresh ideas, no other divergence of canon because we're going with another person. I'm not saying that they were bad, not saying that at all. I'm just saying we needed more perspectives. And I'm a lover of the what if, which is what fanfics initially are. What if this, and you play it out. One of the things I also like about fanfics is that they do not have to be fully canon compliant. Hell, some fanfics I've read in the past were like, we have no idea what's going on here, so we're just going to go on.
Kind of gives like a D&D vibe where it's all by the roll of the die and see what happens.
Yeah, some people have done retroactive canon divergent because they're like, it goes from like this episode onward, and I'm like, you go, you do your thing.
And remind us, because not everybody who is watching this video knows what retroactive means. What does that mean?
Well, just basically, I'm picking a point, and this is how we're doing it. I don't care how canon is going, and we're going with that.
Now, within Retrograde fanfics, there are some related or similar terms that also come up in fanfiction circles. I've heard it say that Retrograde fanfics are to Ascendance of a Bookworm, what the isekai genre is to anime. And while that sounds a bit harsh, I get where that bit of criticism might come from. There are a lot of Retrograde fanfics in the fandom, with good reason. They're so much fun. The most popular English language fanfic, Shumil in Wolf's Clothing, with hundreds of thousands of hits, is a retrograde story, and it deserves every bit of its hype. But I also think that this comparison misses an important point. Bookworm already has retrograde elements built into its canon. Spoilers ahead for the Hannelore spin-off. Skip forward to this time if you want to avoid spoilers. Alright, for those that are still here, in canon, individuals can travel back to the past, and the consequences of those changes ripple out into the future. Kazuki-sensei has woven memory manipulation into the story several times as well. For instance, we see this with Mastionora altering Rosamine's memories in Part 5, and Dragoner seems to have this ability as well. Finally, both now and in the past, there have been moments when the gods need human cooperation and end up negotiating terms that suit both parties in order for this cooperation to work out. So yes, retrograde fanfics are common in this fandom, but considering the universe Kazuki-sensei created, where she herself opened the door to these kind of shenanigans, these works and stories fit naturally into the bookworm world.
If I remember correctly, there was one of my favorite, my boy, Hartmut, and he goes off. He just hit the ground running trying to uplift mine, and he's doing the Lord's work.
Is this the one where he decides that he's going to become Zent?
Yes.
Yes! Being named sworn to Rosamine, Hartmut thinks his life couldn't get any better. However, in a shocking twist, he realizes that it's not his happiness that matters, but Rosamine's. Desperately, he wishes to go back in time to make Rosamine the happiest person in Jürgenschmidt, even if he has to become Zent himself to achieve that. We have amazing Rosamine and Ferdinand retros, but what about an unhinged Hartmut one? That's another one by Akuferu. Dude, Akuferu. Doing great work out there in so many respects. Yes.
People should always feel like they can go ham wild sometimes with their fanfics.
So for you, the crazier and the more adventurous they are, the better?
Sometimes, yeah.
All right. So when you started talking about the status of Bookworm in specific, the fanfics, you said that it used to be that there were very limited choices, like not a lot of what you wanted to see. What is the state of Bookworm fandom according to you now, as you see it?
So as I've looked through it a bunch more and I've gone deeper into the growing rabbit hole now that canon is over-ish, I guess.
Mhm.
Hannelore is technically still going on, so we'll see. Bookworm only. It's going great. I'm seeing a little bit more other characters being the star of the show, not just Ferdinand or mine. I'm seeing a bit more other people, like Benno.
Mhm.
I've seen a couple more of Benno, which was great. Love the man. Does need a little bit more love.
He does.
I have seen a couple of Lutz. Not sure why he's so limited, but I'm not a writer. Granted, I am trying to and failing to write a Feline thing, which there are a few outliers going right up her alley, which is great. And I'm thinking once more time has come, and I think the next season of Bookworm comes out on the anime side, we might see more.
Oh, yes.
Maybe.
I am hoping that we will get a fresh influx of Bookworm fanatics into our little world. It's fairly prolific now. When I first started, I think my first fanfic, I wrote it in 2021, and it was one of about 100 fanfics. So in 2021, it was like 110 fanfics, I think. And now we have 586 works. Awesome! I love it.
Now, when I started the Bookworm, there was no fanfics.
Oh.
None. It was one guy fan translating, no official thing. Well, I had to just live off the original, which was fine. I still had plenty of other fan works from other series that I enjoyed. But I do gotta say, the jump in the fan works of Bookworm has been great. I will say that we have a lot of interesting perspectives on the main character, a lot of things basically really trying to break the mold on what canon could provide and what would have happened, which has been great. Like, I think there was one where it was she never became a noble, and I was like, oh, awesome.
I think I know which one that is. What if mine never became a noble? Originally, Ferdinand had intended for her to be trained in the temple, and upon coming of age, leaving it to become the wife or concubine of a noble. But in this alternate reality where mine never became Rosamine, Jürgen Schmidt is falling apart. What sacrifices will have to be made to save this weeb and everyone mine holds dear? Or are they all doomed to share the same fate as that of their collapsing country?
I think I saw one where, like, oh, he died. It doesn't matter. What's left is what's left. And, like, here's what waves she made, even when she's dead.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, that's pretty darn cool. There's a lot of ships to take, even though that's a story for another time.
Yeah, the crack ships. We started a crack ship spreadsheet to see how viable they were. The thing is, there was an offshoot of that spreadsheet because to you, all of the ships, every single one was viable.
not entirely. There's a lot of really good ones and a lot of ones that we could make happen. I could make happen. So, I mean, if there's a will, there's a way. That's how crack ships work in fanfiction.
Now, Brandon, where exactly can people go if they want to start reading or writing fanfiction? Are there any platforms you've heard of or you would recommend?
Well, I guess there is the Archive of Our Own, AO3, as it's listed. Fanfiction.net is a viable resource, a very, very good one. It's been around for a long time. There are others. I haven't used them as much. I started my fanfiction journey on DeviantArt.
Oh, that's interesting. You wouldn't expect that to be a fanfic writing place. Why did you choose that one?
No, I can go back further. I started my fanfiction journey on YouTube back in 2008.
Wow. Okay. And why did you choose that one? That platform? Those platforms?
So I found a few videos that pointed me in the directions. So my first video was a full-on text video that was voiced. And I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool. And then the next one was not voiced, but it still went on the same storyline. Then they had a link in their video to DeviantArt. And then I found a whole bunch more things on DeviantArt, and I'm like, okay. And then someone had a link to fanfiction.net, which really opened the floodgates, and I went crazy. And yeah, there's a lot there.
It's funny that you mention YouTube and DeviantArt as places where you started your own fanfic journey. I guess because most of the time we associate fanfics with written content, and YouTube is mostly a platform for audio and video, while DeviantArt back in the day was mostly for posting your illustrations and artwork. Yet, fans are no longer just limited to sharing text-based work. Now fanfics run the whole gamut. In sites like YouTube or SoundCloud, fanfic writers and fanfic fans are recording and uploading the audio versions of popular fanfics. Of course, they do this after they get the fanfic writer's permission, and you're not allowed to monetize off of it. I'm doing one that is a world away. We're reading it live on my channel. We're reading it on Mondays and Wednesdays, and it's really interesting the engagement that we get when it's on an audio medium rather than...
Actually, funny thing is that some people actually just published their story on YouTube, and they just had like the words floating. And I'm like, oh, I just read it like this, and I just pause it, and then I'm okay.
As to visual medium, the giant that we have not yet mentioned is Pixiv, where fans from all over, though mostly from Japan, share not just illustration work, but there's also a huge archive of text-based work. There are several fanfic writers who team up with fan artists who will create a book cover for their fanfic work, or who will even make a whole manga out of their fanfic. Or sometimes it's just an illustration of their favorite moment of the fanfic. I am so excited when I see collaborative works, because in my opinion, when fans get together to create something, this collaboration keeps a fandom alive and thriving, even after the original work is done. Now, there are hundreds and hundreds of fanfics out there. How do you find the fanfic that's best for you? Or how do you find just a good fanfic to read?
One thing I will applaud AO3 on is your ability to tag. With DeviantArt and fanfiction.net, there's no real way to tag things. You have a couple options for like searching, like a tool of searching. But with AO3, you have a lot more ability to search what you're looking for.
That is true.
Which I do got to give them props on. Just the name of the character that you're going to have is your main character. If you're going to have a ship, you put a slash in the other character name. Tagging is basically another way for people to search for your book.
I've been spoiled by AO3's tagging system because it tells you like the kind of relationship, if it's complete, if it's not complete, if it's a mature work. It's a great system that they have there.
In other sites, it's basically just the main character that you're putting in there, and that's all they can do. That's not to say that AO3 is the one and only option. I'm not hating on the other sites. They have been around for so long, they can't really code themselves to be something else because they have to juggle everybody. AO3 is technically still in beta, and you have to go through the whole process. Posting your work to multiple sites, not a horrible idea.
Yes, because there's a lot of people, for example, that I know they're in fanfiction.net but are not posting on AO3. And I was like, hey, I haven't seen this fanfic, this Ascendance of a Bookworm fanfic here, and oh wow, somebody is doing something really neat here. So yeah, check out. Don't just go and crowd into AO3. It sounds like I'm selling AO3. Go to AO3. No, go into fanfic as well, and the other places where we've mentioned. There's good stuff to be found.
It's difficult to really pick the best ones. Like you can always see, like you can maybe see by how many people bookmarked it, how many views it's had, but that doesn't always mean it's great. It means there's been a lot of traffic. I have had difficulty trying to answer this question myself because I can go into something. It has great tags. I love the intro, but they have the opening intro of what it's about. And I go in and it's not quite up to what my expectations were. And that's always a hard point. Managing expectations in that first blip. As for stories that I've seen in our little fandom, I do have to recommend, and I have to other people, Shoemill and a Wolf's Clothing. And one of my favorites of the fandom.
Yes. It was written, I believe, not just by one person, but by a team of people who are incredibly knowledgeable about Bookworm, and they just do such a good job. In this one, by the way, Shoemill is a retrograde where she goes back from the future, like something terrible happens in canon, and she is basically thrown back in the past. You know, she's back being mine, but with all the memories from canon. This time, though, she's like, well, if I was able to fool people in the other, in the canon, like into believing that I was a noble, why not do it from the very, very start? So she does, and how they managed to pull it off is frankly really impressive. Because she even has to fool Karsten. She has to fool him into believing that she is his missing daughter. I think Ferdinand as well.
The entire noble cast.
Yeah, into making them believe that she was indeed Rosemary's daughter. It's really neat. So I primarily read in AO3. I haven't yet dipped my toe in the waters that are Pixiv, so it's primarily the English ones and the Spanish ones. There are some interesting Spanish ones. So along with Shoemill and Wolf's Clothing, one of my favorite ones is Odyssey to Oceanus. It's by Faye Storyteller and Minette34, who also were part of the crew that wrote Shoemill and Wolf's Clothing. It's about Urano, but instead of being born in Airfest, she is born in a port that I believe it was Oswald. This is set during the time of the Civil War. So you get people like princesses and princess, and the political situation. It's incredible. Because of reasons, she goes to the Royal Academy. She's dressing up as a guy. She's still a girl, but she's sent over there as a guy. And there she meets a very pretty boy who happens to be younger than her. And his name is Ferdinand. So it's very, very nicely written. It's still on hold. It hasn't been updated since 2023, but I am hoping for it to be updated soon. When they think of fanfics, they kind of think like, ooh, cringy writings. What do you have to say towards people that are very hesitant to exploring fanfics?
I mean, yeah, you're gonna get some of those. But you know what? There's a time in it. It's someone starting out. I can tell you straight that I started cringy writing. Absolutely. It takes time sometimes because not everybody is a full-on writer. These are people doing it for fun. And a lot of the time, they get looked down upon as if they're writers, they're actual full-time writers. And I'm like, that's where the constructive criticism comes into play. There's the proofreaders that are out there. Actually, there are tons of people who are willing to proofread.
Fanfics are just for the love of it. It's a passion project. They're not going to be sold. So the thing about being an adult or grown up, I guess, is that a lot of people say like you're not allowed to follow a hobby with like passion and purpose unless you're going to profit monetarily from it. And to that I say no. We are allowed to just do it for the fun of it. You know, fan fiction is more than just writing stories. It's actually a big part of fandom culture. And I feel that when you kind of just like dismiss fanfics in general, you're missing out on a lot.
They're giving up on other people's perspective on what if this happened. They're only getting the author's rendition of what would happen, which is the official, and we all love her. We all love them for it. We all love our authors for what they do. And that's where fanfiction comes into play and be like, we're just going to make this scenario over here, and it's more like an ode to the authors themselves. They're missing out on a lot of the jokes and the gags we make inside our own little forums. It's just a place to have fun.
Right. It's an outlet to just continue to engage with the story. I remember when I first finished the web novel, I felt like this terrible void in my heart. I just could not explain it. I was having difficulty like eating and breathing. I just felt sad. I don't know how you felt when you finished Bookworm, but I felt sad. And one of the best ways that, you know, I was able to deal with that kind of like post-novel depression, as I call it, is to go and engage once more in the world in a different way. Like you said, exploring these untold stories, these what-ifs. Kazuki Sensei purposely did not tie every single plot line up. Like, it's still open-ended to a degree that fanfic writers can explore what happens in the future. Like, for example, what if this character had made a different decision? Or like, maybe in 20 years, how is Alexandria gonna look like and the rest of the country is gonna look like? Are the reforms that they made, are they gonna hold up? Just all kinds of wonderful things that you can explore. When you also say like, meh, I don't need fanfics, I don't need that, you're closing yourself off to like a beautiful community. Anytime that I have questions about something that I forgot from the whole story, either the translated or the untranslated content, the community is so quick to answer your questions. They will point out some inconsistencies, you know, they will volunteer for proofreading, they will help you brainstorm ideas. It's great. Just being able to talk with other people who are very acquainted with the world, the characters, and the themes in Bookworm, it's such a treat. So, I don't know, I'm trying to make the case here, Brandon, to have people become fanfic writers or readers, but mostly fanfic writers. Yeah.
One thing I do like about Bookworm is there is a very little amount of bash fics. So basically what I'm saying what a bash fic is when they go in and absolutely dunk on a character. It happens a lot in the Naruto fan base. There's so many where they're just dunking on like all the characters dunk on this one character, and it's like they're made out as a real bad guy. And I'm like, we didn't have to go this route. So I do enjoy Bookworm a lot because of the non-toxicity around all the characters, even though some of them are not good people.
Some writers even go as far as to, hey, let's revisit this character. And I know one of the ones that I really enjoy is a Detland fanfic. It's basically kind of like Vaccarina, but Detland. It's a very gentle approach to the bad characters.
Aspects have their moments. I will give it that. But when they make too much about their fic being a bashing on the character, that's when you make a one-shot about it.
Speaking of negativity, Bookworm in general is, you know, a very lighthearted and very gentle series. Like, I understand that people love Bookworm because it's kind of like a reprieve from, you know, everyday stresses. And sometimes they will also approach Bookworm fanfics looking for the same kind of, you know, the same vibe of like just either slice of life, or the characters, experiencing challenges but ultimately overcoming. And that's fine, but now and again, you will find authors that subvert these expectations, and you have some really dark scenarios. And I just wanna point out, shout out to all of those adventurous fanfic writers. I'm looking at you, Akuferu, who have been brave enough to explore. Like, the what ifs are not just like good things. Like, they will explore dark things. Like, for example, I'm looking at The Tao Doesn't Fall Far from the Tree by Akuferu. Again, it's kind of notorious within the fanficdom because it goes places.
Then there's Afraid Not. Basically, PTSD mine.
Aww.
It's rough.
It's rough.
I gotta say, it's definitely a fic to enjoy if you're looking for left field.
Fergie, if you're listening, get working on Afraid Not. I want to see the conclusion. Now, Brandon, you are not just an avid fanfic reader, but you've also written several fanfics yourself. As a fanfic writer, what advice do you have for people who want to get started in writing their own fanfic?
Well, I would start around the idea and then try to see what avenues you would go. It's hard to outline it to full completion. I get that. I've seen a lot of people try it. I have seen people go by the seat of their pants, and some of them have actually finished theirs, and which is great. I have seen some people try to go off what their audience suggests, and they give them like 3 little bullet points they can choose from, and they vote on them. And I've seen that kind of work, and it's always interesting to see what options are available, because it's not there's no one option to really finish a story, as I've seen. The real crux of the issue is knowing when to end. I've seen way too many stop in the beginning, or stop right in the middle, or they've gone on for chapters and chapters and chapters, and then they fall off.
Oh yeah, that is the most sad thing ever. I am following a few that start off really strong, and then they just peter out, and I'm like, oh, I need the information. I need to know what happens. And in fact, one of the chief complaints in the official Ascendance of a Bookworm Discord server, we have a web novel fanfic channel there, and a lot of people are like, man, I really miss the story. Like, what's going on? Anybody know what happened to the author? Are they still alive? Some people even go as far as to say, hey, if they're gonna let that thing die, can I take over? Can I write? And
I've seen it happen. It can work, and sometimes the work is well complemented. A lot of the time people grab it from the middle, and then they really understand how they want to see the end of it happen. And I've seen really good results in other fandoms. And I know that there's a lot of stories that have been abandoned in the bookworm space.
There are a few challenges when you write fanfics. Start small. The first fanfic I ever wrote was 3 chapters long. And that was just fine. That's all I needed to get my story out of my system, and I felt very accomplished.
I'd actually recommend smaller to start with. I'd actually recommend a one-shot, basically a one-chapter story to start with. Because I actually tried a long multi-work to start with, and I kind of killed myself in the process.
Oh no!
So I'm like, yeah, so it never really got off the ground. Either one. I actually made 2 of them, and it never got off the ground.
There is the thing called a drabble. It is a very short fan fiction. It's only, I don't know, often around 100 words. It's just meant to capture a quick idea or a scene. So even if one chapter is too much, just get that drabble out there and share it with the world. And you know what? Sometimes based on the feedback you get, it gives you motivation to expand on it, either on another drabble that's connected to your first one, or like a full-on one shot. So just the main point is get on out there and share them, right?
Don't write when it becomes work. Work is not what fan fiction's for. Write to have fun with a fandom that you enjoy.
I feel like the beauty of fanfiction is that it's available to everyone. You know, you don't have to have some training or credentials to start writing. Just get on out there, get your Google Doc and start creating your work. Because it's so accessible, it allows for diversity in it. Like a lot of people, whether you're from another country, you speak another language, it's still very accessible. And you have in AO3, you have fanfics that are in different languages, in Spanish, in Chinese, and fanfic readers will still engage. They will still leave comments. I love to see how we're just supporting each other. Brandon, I think we covered a lot of stuff during this chat. I really hope that you guys will join either as a reader or a writer. Please, more writers.
In the immortal words of our savior, Rosemine, make more books so that I may read more books.
Yes, I think that's the best way to go about it, you guys. Brandon, do you have any plugs or anything you want to direct people to if you have a social or anything that...
You can find me on the Magpi Discord as Honorwolf. And you can also see the coffee for Magpi and become a fellow Zent member.
That's right. One of my favorite things about Brandon is that he was the first person who appropriated the role of Heartmut. So sometimes we call him Heartmut, sometimes we call him Honorwolf, sometimes we call him Brandon. It's same one person. Thank you, Brandon, for joining me and talking about fanfics. I had a lot of fun, and I hope that one day you share with us the Feline fanfic. And if you need anything to get us to motivate you so you can publish that, you know what? Just let me know, and I'll be like, where's that fanfic? I need the Feline fanfic.
I need my spell check to work in my favor.
It's okay. I will be your proofreader and do all the spell check things for you.
Goodness gracious.
All right. Let me know when. Thanks for listening, you guys, and thank you, Brandon, for your time. I had a lot of fun.
Well, I enjoyed being here. Good talk.
Good talk. Bye-bye. Remember, bookworms, the world of fanfiction is your oyster. So dive in, explore, create, and join this wonderful community of readers and writers. Again, whether you want to read or write fanfics or are just looking for new bookworm adventures to occupy yourself with until the translated release of Hannelore spin-off, share in the love of Ascendance of a Bookworm with the rest of the fanfic community. A million thanks to all of my Ko-fi members who support this channel, and to the people on the screen for their additional help. I'll see you in the next video. Happy reading and writing! If you like a fanfic, be sure to let the author know and encourage them. And if there is a fanfic that you don't like, please refrain from bashing it in the comments, either here or wherever the fanfic is posted. Thank you.